JustProfessor here. You're having a conversation with someone. They step behind a door for 2 seconds. A completely different person comes back and continues the conversation. Same spot, same context, but a totally different human being. And you don't notice. You keep talking like nothing happened. You think you see your surroundings completely. You feel aware of what's around you, but you're actually missing massive changes happening right in your field of vision. Someone's shirt changes color. A building disappears from a photo. A person you're talking to gets replaced by someone else. These aren't small, subtle shifts. These are huge, obvious changes. And you don't see them unless your attention is on that exact spot when the change happens. This is called change blindness, and it reveals that you see far less of the world than you think you do. Change blindness is when you fail to notice significant changes in a visual scene. The change happens right in front of you. It's not hidden or disguised. But if your attention isn't focused on that specific element when it changes, you don't see it. Your brain doesn't detect that something is different. You look at the scene before the change and after the change, and everything seems the same, even though something major has shifted. This happens because your visual system doesn't take in complete pictures of everything around you. You feel like you're seeing everything, but that's an illusion your brain creates. Actually, you're only consciously processing a small portion of your visual field at any moment. The rest gets filled in with assumptions and memory. When something changes in the parts you're not actively attending to, your brain doesn't register the change. It just updates its assumptions without flagging that an update occurred. The problem is, this reveals a huge gap between how much you think you're seeing and how much you're actually seeing. You walk through the world confident in your visual awareness, but you're missing enormous changes to objects, people, and scenes around you. Your sense of complete visual perception is false. You're operating on a much more limited and selective view of reality than you realize. This has real consequences. You miss information that matters. You don't notice changes in situations that you should be monitoring. You're blind to alterations in your environment that could be important. And because you don't know you're blind to these changes, you overestimate how much you're actually perceiving and understanding about what's around you. Let me show you how change blindness reveals the limits of your vision in shocking ways. The most famous demonstration is the door study. Researchers had someone stop a stranger on the street to ask for directions. While the stranger was giving directions, 2 people carrying a door walked between them. During that brief moment when the door blocked the view, the person asking for directions was replaced by a completely different person. Different face, different build, different clothes. The stranger continued giving directions to this new person without noticing anything had changed. About half of people in this study failed to notice they were talking to a different human being. They weren't distracted or careless, they were paying attention to the conversation. But their attention wasn't on the specific features of the person's face when the change happened, so their brain didn't detect it. Change blindness made them miss an obvious, massive change. Photo comparisons show change blindness clearly. You look at a photo. Then you look at a second version of the same photo where something significant has changed. A building is missing. A person's outfit is different. Objects have appeared or disappeared. If the 2 photos are shown with a brief blank screen between them, most people don't notice even major changes. They look at both images and say they're the same even when they're dramatically different. Your brain doesn't store a detailed representation of the first image. It stores a general impression. When you see the second image, your brain checks if the general impression matches. It does, so your brain says same image without noticing that specific elements have changed. The blank screen between images mimics how your attention shifts in real life, preventing you from tracking the specific change. Movie editing exploits change blindness constantly. Scenes get filmed multiple times from different angles. Between takes, details change. An actor's hair is slightly different. Objects on a table shift position. Background elements vary. When the film is edited together, these changes are visible if you look for them. But most viewers never notice because the changes happen during cuts when attention is disrupted. Change blindness makes continuity errors invisible to audiences. Driving involves dangerous change blindness. You're at an intersection checking if it's safe to proceed. You look left and see a car far away. You look right. You look left again. The car is now much closer, but you perceive it as the same distant car you saw before. Change blindness makes you misjudge the car's speed and proximity because you didn't track the continuous change. Accidents happen because drivers miss changes in traffic situations that are clearly visible. The same thing happens with pedestrians and cyclists. You check your mirrors before changing lanes. You see a cyclist. You look forward to check traffic ahead. You start to change lanes. The cyclist is now in your blind spot, but you didn't track their movement. Change blindness makes you think the road is clear because you do not notice the change in the cyclist's position even though you looked right at them seconds ago. Conversations show change blindness in social contexts. You're talking to someone and they get a haircut partway through your interaction, a dramatic change. But if you weren't looking directly at their hair when they returned from the haircut, you might not notice for a surprisingly long time. Your brain has a general impression of their appearance and doesn't flag that something has changed. Later, you realize they look different but can't pinpoint when the change happened. The same happens with clothing changes, new glasses, or other appearance alterations. People change obvious things about how they look, and their friends don't notice for hours, because change blindness prevents the detection unless attention is on the specific feature when it changes. Security and surveillance suffer from change blindness problems. Guards monitor video screens showing multiple locations. An intruder appears in one camera view. The guard glances at that screen before and after the intruder appears, but during their glance away. Change blindness means they might not register that a person appeared. They look at the screen, look away, look back, and don't notice the change in the scene. This isn't incompetence. It's a fundamental limitation of human visual processing. You can't maintain detailed representations of everything on multiple screens. When changes happen outside your moment of focused attention, change blindness makes them invisible. User interface design has to account for change blindness. When a website updates something on a page while you're looking at another part of the page, you often don't notice. Important alerts and changes get missed because they happen outside your attention focus. Designers learn to use motion, color changes, or other attention-grabbing techniques to overcome change blindness. Static changes that happen when you're not looking are essentially invisible. Shopping and theft involve change blindness effects. Someone shoplifts by picking up an item while your attention is elsewhere. You look at the shelf before and after, but don't notice the item is gone. Your brain isn't comparing the shelf's specific contents. It's confirming the general impression of a shelf of products. Change blindness makes specific changes invisible unless you're actively counting items or looking for that specific thing. Card tricks and magic use change blindness as a core technique. The magician makes a change during a moment when your attention is directed elsewhere. You look at the setup before and after the change, but don't detect what shifted. You swear nothing changed between the moments you were watching, but change blindness made the alteration invisible to you. Witness testimony gets compromised by change blindness. You see a crime. Details of the scene change during the event. The perpetrator switches clothing items. A car changes position. A weapon appears or disappears. If these changes happen when your attention is focused elsewhere in the scene, change blindness means you don't encode them. Later you can't report what changed because you never consciously saw the changes occur. So how do you see better when your brain is built to miss changes? How do you overcome change blindness? First, accept that you're not seeing everything you think you're seeing. Your impression of complete visual awareness is false. You're missing changes all the time. This awareness makes you more careful about assuming you've seen everything important in a situation. Second, actively scan when you need to detect changes. Don't just glance at a scene and assume you'll notice if something's different. Systematically check specific elements. Change blindness is strongest when you're relying on general impressions. It's weaker when you're actively comparing specific features. Third, use attention deliberately in situations where changes matter. If you need to monitor something, keep your attention on it continuously or have a system to track it externally. Don't rely on your brain to flag changes automatically. It won't unless you're looking at the right spot at the right time. Fourth, recognize situations where change blindness creates danger. Driving, security work, monitoring equipment, supervising children, these all involve tracking changes in dynamic situations. Extra care and systematic checking are necessary because change blindness makes you miss things that seem obvious in retrospect. Fifth, take photos or notes when you need to track changes over time. Your memory of how something looked before is not reliable. Your brain updates its representation without flagging what changed. External records let you compare before and after states without relying on change detection. Sixth, be suspicious when something seems off, but you can't identify what. Sometimes change blindness leaves you with a vague sense that something changed without conscious awareness of the specific change. Take this feeling seriously and investigate rather than dismissing it. Seventh, understand that more information is changing around you than you can possibly track. This isn't something you can fix by trying harder. It's a fundamental limit of human vision. Work within this limit by prioritizing what you need to track and using tools to extend your awareness. Change blindness proves you see far less than you think you see. Massive, obvious changes happen right in front of you and you miss them completely. Someone switches places with a different person. Objects appear or disappear. Scenes alter dramatically. And you don't notice unless your attention happens to be focused on exactly the right spot when the change occurs. This happens because vision doesn't work like you think it does. You don't see everything in your visual field clearly and continuously. You see a small spotlight of focused attention clearly and fill in everything else with assumptions and general impressions. When changes happen outside that spotlight, they don't register. Your brain updates its assumptions without flagging that an update occurred. The result is, you walk through life with an illusion of complete visual awareness that doesn't match reality. You feel like you're seeing your surroundings fully, but you're actually operating on limited selective perception supplemented by assumptions. Changes that seem like they should be obvious are invisible to you because of how attention and vision actually work. This creates real problems in situations where detecting changes matters. Driving, security, supervision, monitoring, all of these rely on noticing when something changes. But change blindness makes you miss critical alterations even when you're looking and trying to pay attention. The limitation is in how human vision fundamentally operates, not in whether you're being careful. Understanding change blindness doesn't give you the ability to see everything, but it makes you aware of what you're missing. It makes you question your assumptions about complete visual awareness. It makes you more systematic about checking for changes in situations where they matter. Most people go through life never realizing how much they're not seeing. The next time you're sure nothing has changed in a scene or situation, remember change blindness. Something might have changed dramatically and you missed it because your attention wasn't on that element when it happened. Your impression of seeing everything is false. You're seeing a limited selected portion and filling in the rest with assumptions that get updated without your awareness. Subscribe to learn more about how your perception creates illusions of awareness that do not match what you're actually experiencing.